How you doing there? Welcome to Something About Tabletop. This is going to be episode 2 on how to run a Shadowrun job. Now this is going to be the actual bulk of how to run a job. We've already talked about how to conceptualize a mission and maybe what kind of jobs you can run. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description below. And this is going to be on the meat. This is where you set the scene. The meat is where the players basically learn about the job. Now, the meet itself is usually the first encounter, and it's usually a social encounter. Though if you want, depending on how you want to do it, you can have a counter beforehand. But the thing is, because of the nature of Shadowrun, usually you do a job basically, and you learn about the job, then you do the job. Simple as that. Now, if you are going to have an encounter beforehand, make sure it loops into the theme of the job itself. Like, say, if they're in a bad neighborhood, maybe you can have a short encounter with some hobos trying to steal some money from them, or maybe you can have some little social encounters and stuff. Actual combat encounters, it really depends on the actual thing itself, but most of the time I tend to stick to afterwards, maybe during the rest and bulk of the mission. Anyway, so the start of at least introducing a meet is, of course, the place that they're going to. Normally you can do this through a call through their fixer, because everyone gets their missions from their fixer to them itself, and then they go to the meet. Try to specify as much as you can. Being overly vague can maybe not allow them to be drawn into the mission enough. Try to have names for places and things like that. They don't actually have to exist, making up random bar names and stuff like that, but try to make the meeting place itself interesting. I mean, using a bar in a warehouse is a pretty typical thing to do, and if you are going to use it, try to spice it up. But there's plenty of places you can make it interesting, like maybe have a meeting on the Matrix in an interesting virtual bar, or maybe a virtual play space. Or maybe, like I've done before, where they actually have to meet on a boat, just in the middle of a river, kind of thing, like all secretive and stuff like that. Or maybe they meet inside someone's mansion. There's always that. And then they can kind of show off the Johnson more and what he's all about. And a good thing to do is always to prove the Johnson's power, because the whole thing is that the Johnson is actually kind of having a psychological game with the Shadowrunners to try to show that he's boss here, and you got to go through him to get paid. You got to do what he wants you to do, and don't F with him. Now that we've got the meeting place down, make sure it's specific to your mission. Like, obviously, say if you're going to be doing a corporate mission, having a meeting in the bar, just a random bar, probably not the best. If you're doing a ganger mission, though, that's where it works. But I mean, if you want to kind of show off that the Johnson's new to this, you could just have it at a random bar. I don't know, it really depends on you. Anyway, try to make the Johnson interesting. I actually have a pretty infamous Johnson known as Monroe. How you doing? And that Johnson I've used a lot, at least in recent times, and I really enjoy playing Monroe. And a lot of my players also enjoy it. You can even check out the myriad of videos that I've done on him. But I mean, don't always choose an extreme like Monroe for Johnson, but try to give him a voice, maybe, if you can voice, a personality, and make sure it's based on his faction. Having a boring human businessman gets old after a while, and try not to fall into that trap. I know I did. Though something you can do is just try to spice up the race. Of course, make them female as well. Have a woman, have a man, dwarf, orc, even troll, which is fairly rare. Now that we've made the Johnson interesting, we have an interesting meetings place. Now we've got to go to, I guess, why they're here, which is the information of the job. Now, you can pull this across as much as you want. You can just spiel out the information from your head, have it written down, maybe even give the players a piece of paper with the file that they hand them. Maybe even have actual pictures ready and stuff like that. Or you can merely describe all the information that is given to them. That's what I usually do, I just describe it. Though, say, for a con, I think I'm actually going to be using a method of actually having the stuff ready to give to people, because it's more tangible and definitely draws them in, and it can also shorten time, because people have the information readily available. Also, the thing is that because you're giving them information, there's probably information that you've missed out, and there's always question times with the Johnson, and the Johnson just says, let me hear some questions. If you want, you can kind of rush it and not allow that time to happen, but you've probably missed some stuff, and this is a good time for players to ask questions to the Johnson. If they keep on asking silly over specific questions, at that point you can just say, I'm done here, I've given you all the information that I have, I gotta go. And then you can let them deal with everything else, and if they need to call the Johnson, they can call the Johnson. And sometimes the Johnson may not even have them call them until they've finished the job. There's always that. But of course, if there is some information that you should have put in that you've forgotten, don't freak out. Either say the Johnson doesn't know and he'll get back to you, or you as a DM go, hey guys, I actually don't know. I'm going to work it out right now, or make it up on the spot, of course, and then just continue. And by doing that, obviously, you haven't failed or anything like that. It's just a little oversight, and I've done it before. Anyway, after that, there's finally the main bulk of the meat. And this is where the players negotiate pay. Now you ask, how much do I pay on a Shadowrun mission? Well, an average Shadowrun mission is around 10 grand. That's how much you usually give someone. Now, it can be plus or minus depending on the job itself. There's actually a little pay chart. It's around page 378, 376-ish, I can't exactly remember. But around there is basically a chart that basically says the higher the dice roll and the higher the challenges, the more the pay. Now, if you're not 100% on what they're exactly going to be going against, try to make a middle ground. And the Johnson may up their pay at the end if he's impressed with what they did. I do this sometimes, where they may get more karma or more money, depending on how well they did in the mission itself. Now, this may not accurately portray what happens in real life, but maybe the Johnson is trying to secure their loyalty, and you can show that as well. Now, that's the meat. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And next episode is going to be on the legwork or the prep. Thank you for listening. This was something about tabletop.